Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Tuesday night edition of Never Mind the Buy Box. I hope everyone's well. I am joined by the amazing Luke Dugan. How are you?
That's me. Yeah. I'm good, feeling a little bit like I've got a bit of a cold coming on, but apart from that, I'm good.
Well, I had mine last week. Which was with the kids going back to school, and they just like totally infected me with the lurgy. I think it was like one of those things that as soon as all the kids have gone back, they've all congregated together and they're just all sending around these kind of colds. So I get why people are sort of like, we're really worried about the whole kind of coronavirus thing, because people like kids going back and getting reinfected. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But literally it is just a cold. So we should be okay. So we will just wait a few minutes for a few people to jump on. Give us a hi in the comments. I'm just going to log on to the video. Hopefully it should be live now. There we go. Right, just waiting for a few people to jump on. Janet's joined us. Evening, Janet. Can you give us a few thumbs up and a few likes? Because it just... it sends out the notification to everyone to let them know that we're live. And I think you guys, because obviously we had a bit of a break last week to help accommodate Matt and his training, which I know most of you attended anyway. So it was, so some of you guys might have got out of the consistency of remembering that we do this every Tuesday at 7:00. So, but everyone seems to be jumping back on now. So Harvey's watching. Hey, Harvey. Ray, evening, Ray. Hi, guys. How's it going? Says Paul. How's it going, Luke?
Going good. Just started to brainstorm. I'm doing a little bit of thinking for Q4 and next year. Behind the scenes. Trying to, because I've got a little, since I've been in Lithuania, I've kind of been treating it like half a holiday and half obviously like trying to push the business in the right direction. But I have been maybe being a bit too like relaxed, and it's okay now and then. Like I feel like you have to have it at some point. But it's just that I'm now trying to think, right, okay, Luke, come on, what do you want to do next year? This year's going to go so fast. But the rest of this year will just fly by, and it'll be Christmas. So I was really trying to just think about next year and where I want to go. And I'm thinking about the direction of pretty much just outsource by the end of next year, or by this time next year, trying to get to a position where most of the business is actually outsourced. I kind of just thought, why not? Like, sod it. Let's just do it anyway. That's the thing about me. I can just like flip a switch sometimes. Like, what? Right, we're going to start hiring. Let's just do it. Worst case, it doesn't work, and I can adapt over. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But let's just give it a go.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key. And do you know what? That's an interesting thought. We'll say hello to everyone, but I might, I just want to kind of pick up on what Luke said there a little bit. But also, before asking that, Luke, do you think, obviously, you said it's like part holiday, part, you've maybe not been as proactive as you could have done. But do you maybe feel like that because obviously you've outsourced all your prep, which means you're a lot less busier than you would have been anyway. So in reality, you're probably not being less proactive.
Like if I was, I get what you're saying. Like, I probably am probably doing too much work if you think about it, because like that was pretty much a huge chunk of my days. It's like, so what am I now doing for 6 hours that I wasn't doing? Like, I'm not really doing much more. Yeah, I'm focusing on other areas, but like, is it 6 hours worth? Probably not. So I guess, but also I at what point was I going to just go, actually start living like, I would never, literally, this is how I would think. I'd be like, in the week, I'm doing nothing but work. So if someone says, do you want to go for a dinner on a Wednesday night? I'd be like, what? I'd literally look at them like it's the most like bizarre decision to go for a pizza I'm like, yeah, but you've got to be disciplined. Like you got to work out every day. You've got to eat like exactly, like my focus was like completely skewed. And then the weekend, it was like, that's your time to do it. But now I'm trying to just be like, what? I want to get back to, I want to have a feel like, there will be days that are like hit it hard, grind or whatever. But then once I've done that, if something in the evening came up, I'm happy to, you know, I can kind of like, and that's kind of probably why I feel like it's half a holiday, because just going for dinner in a weekday is like a lot. Like to me, it sounds like not like an amazing thing, but it just feels like it's something that, oh, that's you know, it's quite fancy.
No, I know, but obviously you've changed your life in the sense that you've literally picked up, you're living this kind of digital nomad life. And I suppose it's giving you the freedom to be able to do what you want. But let's say hello to a few people. I know a few people have commented, and then we'll pick that point back up, because there's actually something that I wanted to talk about that kind of relates to that anyway tonight, because I think it's important to cover a little bit of what you've said. But let's say hello to everyone first. So Janet says, a night away from the hair salon tonight, Luke. There we go. There's Luke's light. Sorry, that's a bit of an in-joke. It's for anyone that kind of watched the original training for the Elite Sellers Academy, and also the Elite Sellers Academy on a Thursday that we run, which is our paid membership site for elite Amazon sellers. And every time that Luke goes on, he has this kind of light above him, which we've had so many different comments about. Now, is it a traditional like salon hair dryer? Is it someone said it's like a beam you up Scotty type thing? So what was some of the other things? Someone said there was a UFO floating over. Said honestly, one of those things you had to kind of be there, but you guys kind of get the idea. Hayden says evening. Hayden says feels like you've passed the prep on to him. But where's your mum, Hayden? She's been doing all your prep.
Yeah.
That's what you've been posting about anyway. Sean says he works 7 days a week. Yeah, we know you're a grafter, Sean, 100%. Ben's watching. Evening, Ben. Sarah's watching. Hayden says sounds like you're starting to slack, Luke. But I know the level of prep you were doing before, so yeah, we'll give Luke a Q4 pass. Then we expect him to start.
4 years. How many years do you expect people to do that for?
They are winding you up.
Like, I think 4 years was like they couldn't even get their head around that, let alone in like even 2 years, people couldn't get their head around. But I did it for 4. They
are winding you up, Luke. So that's it. Ruth says Luke's halo. Paul says evening, Paul. Salvatore's joined us evening. Salvatore lives down the road from me, or, you know, in the same town as me. So evening, Salvatore. Hayden said she was in her unit prepping for me earlier. Bless her. We all need a mum like Hayden's that's willing to get in and do a bit of prepping for them. So Lorraine says evening Fran, evening Russell, evening Corin. Hi Donna, hi Ray. Lots of you joining on tonight. So what I wanted to pick back up on again, we have sort of covered this before, but not for a little while. Exactly, and this is just off the cuff of what Luke just said, is that sometimes in this business that you make decisions for the business in order to make your life a little bit easier, to make your processes run a little bit smoother, to make things a little bit easier for your business. And sometimes it can be the right, or sometimes it can be the wrong choice for your business at that time. Now, Luke's spoken in depth about, making the right decision to outsource his prep, because he was doing all his prep himself up until very recently. Now, sometimes what can happen is, particularly in this business, and it's really important to know this, is not that it's the right or the wrong time to do things, but sometimes it can be, you can possibly make a move too early to make those kind of decisions in your business. And then what can happen is you end up having to scale back again. And I know you've talked about that previously in the past, Luke, haven't you? You know, you've had to, you outsourced your prep kind of before, and then you decided that you had to bring it back in-house because it wasn't working out for you quite at the right time. And what I just wanted to pick up on and say that that's perfectly normal in business, to be able to test the water in different areas and to be able to look at things at the right time in your business. And it shouldn't dishearten anyone. Now, I know a lot of sellers that, that come out the block that sort of like say, right, I want to outsource this. I want to get a VA. I want to use a prep center. I want to use sourcing software. I want to have a deal service. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do that. But sometimes, you have to pick and choose what's going to be best for your business from the start. And don't be embarrassed or ashamed and think that you're failed or anything like that. If you have to scale back on some of those services, reassess your business and see, what's going to be the right decision for you. And that's exactly what you did, or what you've done over the time that you've been selling, haven't you, Luke?
Yeah, it might be, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I could be prepping in 6 months back home. I don't rule anything out. But then that makes me, but because of that as well, when I'm doing well, I'm trying to think, well, you know what? I don't know where I'd be in 6 months or a year or 2 years, or whatever the time frame is. So that's maximize what we're. The thing is, it's easy to go, oh, look, times are really great at the moment, I think it's selling, but what could you do if you really put some work in to maximize not only the current situation where it seems to be quite nice for sellers, but loading that with actually like a lot of implementation and action in your business, and like doubling up on that, not riding the wave, but trying to really sort of triple down, so that if you do have like a lull period or something doesn't work, it doesn't matter so much. I'm trying to think a little bit like that as well, and just maximizing what's just definitely for the rest of this year. I'm just looking to not go, oh, you know what, if I have a Q4 like last year, I'll be happy, I'll take X. I'm trying to think, you know what, you want to try to push for the extra 10 grand, that extra 20 grand, so that you do potentially have more choice in the future, because you don't know what's going to happen. That's what I'm kind of trying to keep at the forefront of my thought process, rather than just thinking, I'm here now, it's going to be like this forever. Let's just chill out, work part-time and take some, that kind of thing. So I'm trying to be a little bit more thoughtful at the moment as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important to test the different things, because what can happen is it doesn't manage your expectations as to paying out for a certain type of service. I think sometimes you can think, oh my God, it's going to save me so much time. It's going to do this, it's going to do that. That's why it's important to trial different things and see which one is important to you, to outsource first of all. Now, I don't think there'll be anyone watching tonight. Hopefully, Luke, everyone will agree with me that actually when it comes to this business, the most time consuming part and the most, I suppose, less value led part of this business for me is prep. That's what I think. It sucks the most time and it doesn't make you any money. It saves you money technically, but it depends how much you value your time for how much it saves you, if that makes sense. But that's the thing that's going to have the biggest impact for when people outsource their prep. So that's something that does, I get why people want to outsource that, first and foremost. But if you're doing something like thinking about hiring a VA and you think, okay, well, I haven't got time to source, so therefore I'm going to get myself a VA. And VA is going to do all my sourcing for me, and I'm going to save myself so much time. I'm going to have so much time on my hands. But what actually happens with something like that, because you end up actually working very closely with your VA, or that's what it should be. You end up training them, you end up supporting them, you end up, encouraging them to get the best possible sales. And then depending on what level you have to start with a VA, then you probably end up spending just as much time checking their deals than you do actually sourcing them. So that one can be a little bit misleading in terms of thinking that it's going to save you, lots and lots of time, if that makes sense. So it's important to go through all of these tasks, trial and error. Don't think, okay, I'm just going to, if I pay for someone to do that, it's going to give me loads of time back, because sometimes it doesn't. So that's why it's important to test all these different areas, see what works for you, see what works with your processes, and then make the decision from there.
It's like, I'm going to get some VAs, or start with one, obviously, and build on it. I want to pretty much, even though I have like a bit of knowledge at the beginning, in my mind, I'm like still going to create procedures, basically as if I'm doing it myself, which I'll give them to learn, as well as actually do it with them watching me do it. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't expect them to obviously be able to, they can watch it and get some tips, but it's going to take them like a year. So I'm going to, like everything I do, I kind of look at everything like a year. Like if it takes me a year to get all of that done, because I'm thinking, so I'm going to, my aim is to do one at a time, like, you know, even get like an accountancy style VA, get like one that does more analytics style things, one that does more like sourcing to my style, you know, different things like that. But I expect that I'm going to have to spend a year with them, as long as I'm just basically instilling everything that I do in them. But that, of course, takes time. It's almost like coaching. I'm basically going to have to do some coaching with these VAs. But
yeah,
then down the line, a year down the line, obviously, I'm going to, just like people that I've done coaching for now, they're seeing results now, but it could be a year on, it could be 6 months on, it could be 8 months on, and now they're starting to see the traction, but it only comes then.
Absolutely. And I suppose that applies to all level of outsourcing as well. So you're not, apart from prep, you're probably not going to see too much difference for the services that you will apply to outsource immediately. It's going to take a little while for the effects of the outsourcing to be able to kick in. As I said, apart from prep, which is the only one that you kind of find yourself twiddling your thumbs a little bit to start with. But of course, there's a cost with that, because prep is definitely the biggest time sucker when it comes to selling on Amazon. But it's also the biggest outsource cost you will ever consider for your business, unless you've got an army of VAs, of course. But if you've got an army of VAs, then technically, it means that you're sending a lot in, which means that you're going to have very high prep costs as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think my prep costs in the last, when did I outsource it? June, July, August, and we're now in September, right? Yeah. So my last 3 bills is like, it's over 10 grand that I paid out in 3 months. Around 10 grand. It's probably not much more, but around that price. It's like, and the way that I saw it is that I was in actually a privileged position to own, when I actually started Amazon, that I was only making 18 grand a year as my salary, because that was a massive reason for my decisions being exactly how they were. The hard thing is, if you're making 45 or 50 or something, there's a lot of things that you'll do differently when you would do things differently and all that kind of thing. So I was happy to do lots of prep myself for ages, because like £1,000 extra a month was like double. Like I'm doubling my previous salary that I had for like 6 years every month, just by doing a little bit of manual work, which was like, you know, no effort at all really. But the whole decision, and now I'm like, even now I'm like, if I'm spending 60 grand a year, that's in 1 year, I could be spending 60 grand. And you might think, yeah, it's worth it, and all that. Well, then I think, well, if 30 grand, a job for 30 grand a year is actually pretty solid, you know, like an average sort of job. It was like, that's like double what I was even, you know, getting 4 years ago. It's like, it takes me 1 year to make that 60 grand, which I'm paying out now, but in theory, that's 2 years worth of living. So I kind of like try to like rationalize things like that. So I could sacrifice 1 year of my life doing prep, but in theory, I'm getting 2 years reward. So I can, you know, and that's how I break things down. And that's how a lot of my decisions are done. Just like to simplify, like if someone's like, oh, £10 for a cinema ticket is so expensive. I'm like, how much do you get an hour at a job? £10. So you put 1 hour's worth of effort in at a job, but you get at least, well, normally about 2 hours of reward. So you're doubling your reward for your input. And like so I obviously see that, but now I'm obviously at a point where that's one why I've carried on doing it for so long and jumped into it head first. But again, if my prep was, if I was making 400 grand a year and I wanted to do this, 60 grand looks like nothing. So to people, they might be like, oh, well, I get 400, you know, whatever they get. So that's how I end up making my decisions, actually, which is quite interesting.
I absolutely love the way you think about things, Luke, because you think about things in such a methodical way, in such a logical way. Absolutely. You know, you look at everything and you say, okay, that costs that and you could earn that, but I get this level of enjoyment out of it. Whereas I think on the prep side of things, obviously, yes, it's going to cost you a lot of money, but also you have to take into account that the time that you are not spending prepping, and providing you are attributing a part of that back into your business in order to grow your business, then overall that 60 grand that you pay out for the year is not going to be 60 grand, because how much has your business grown because you're not prepping?
It's kind of like, I would be happy to sacrifice, maybe not now, a year's worth of life, or whatever you want to say, to get 60 grand, because I'm going to get 2 years worth of reward, meaning that I basically got 2 years of breathing space with Amazon. In theory, I could basically pay myself nothing. I say I pay myself that, I stocked it out for the year, or maybe 60 grand isn't enough. Maybe I want 4 years worth of passive income residual to, like safety net. So I'm happy, and that's how I kind of like. So obviously everyone's different, but to me, that's like how I.
No, I think it's a really interesting way of looking at things, and that's why we have these type of discussions in this kind of public forum, to look at things in a slightly different way. We're not saying that the way Luke does it is 100%, the right way to do it. We're not saying the way I do things is the right way to do it. We have these kind of discussions in order to provoke thought in people, to say, okay, maybe if I did something a little bit different that way, that might improve my business on how it's running, or whatever. And, hopefully you guys understand that. Let us know in the comments if you do. We're not saying do it like this or don't do it like this. It's, it's in order to give you guys ideas and provoke those thoughts within your business. So Indra says, good evening. Ash says, evening all. Hayden says, great point. Nat, nothing wrong with testing first. Work-life balance is hard at the start of this business, I find. Absolutely, but it will get better. And what tends to happen is this business, this Amazon cycle, goes through so many different cycles with different people. Now, I've been speaking to a number of sellers lately, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that towards the end of this evening. About how they run their business and getting insight into people's businesses and that type of thing. And we're just like literally going through this process of you can start out with FBA, and then you outsource your prep, you bring it back in, and then you maybe find different ways of doing things or whatever. So we've got all these different types of things, but some of the sellers that I've been speaking to recently, quite big sellers, over the late 6-7 figure sellers, that type of thing, they've actually in position where then they kind of bring all their prep back in-house, and they hire people to do it, or they end up going down the seller fulfilled prime route, or they end up going down the merchant fulfilled prime route. So we're saying there's loads of different ways that you can look at this business and what is going to work for you. Obviously you can't do merchant fulfilled from where you are.
Yeah, you could try.
Well, you could if you outsourced it, of course.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know where I'd be. No, I've even looked like just at 60 grand of prep free costs. I get my own, sort of renting. Guess you're going in with some people, creating some sort of hybrid model. Problem is, it takes a little bit of time. Like you got to train the staff. There's a lot of, it's not as easy as just like taking something and it's there tomorrow. But an interesting thing that I was just thinking of, related to what we were talking about a minute ago, is like, now that I've outsourced the prep though, and I'm comfortable with the costs, that was important, because obviously it's a big chunk. So you need to be really making decent, in my eyes, decent profits, unless you're literally not willing to take any money for a longish period of time, because you want to obviously compound as quick as you can. But now anything else that I want to outsource, it seems quite cheap. Paying £400 for a VA or something, I'm like, that's nothing. If I'm spending £6 on prepping, what's another £400 to chuck in the expenses or whatever? But at least now, like, I kind of, it kind of is like that that time. So that in a way is like, once you're comfortable with that, it should be then, even if it takes a little bit of, so I was thinking about this, even if it takes a little bit longer for you maybe than others to outsource to that level, but once you get there, because that's such the biggest chunk, I think, of the business, that you should be able to then outsource the rest of it pretty quickly, because the cost isn't going to be like 2-3 virtual assistants or whatever. Even that's like £1,000. Well, if I perhaps $5,000, like, and so you're able to, and then, a software here or a software there, at, £100 and something is like, okay, well, that's hardly anything anyway. So now that I'm starting to see those values as not that much, I feel like I'm in a position to now maybe like supercharge the outsourcing even
more. Well, yeah. I think that doing this business and the amount that we spend every week on procuring goods, I think distorts the value of your money anyway. You know, when you first start selling on Amazon, one of the biggest things that people have is buying goods, because one, they have to accept that this business model works anyway. But the trouble is, then it goes full circle or does a 180, and you get to the point where you're spending thousands and thousands and thousands a week, and it doesn't even like touch the sides. It doesn't even bother you that you're spending thousands and thousands a week. And then when it comes to like booking a holiday and anything, you're like, yeah, 10 grand holiday, whatever, you know, but that 10 grand is obviously, you're not buying tangible assets that you can sell and hopefully make more money on. But you've got to be careful of the distortion that this business does give you about money. It's made me more frugal in certain respects, as in when I'm buying something now, I'm quite like, okay, I don't want to pay that for that, because I know that I can get a similar type of product for that amount. So it's made me more frugal in that respect, but it's also made me more reckless in my spending or, you know, in other areas, thinking, yeah, that's, you know, that's not a problem.
I never used luckily, because I was in like debt when I was younger and all that kind of thing, like I still have that slight longer term mindset that's still instilled there a little bit, like residual, like fear, residual fear from how I felt before. Luckily, obviously that's going with time, but even now I've got a MacBook, but it's like this smaller version, and I'm like, oh, I really like a bigger screen. I got a PC, but it's not as, you know, it's a bit annoying. Obviously, I can't take it anywhere. And I was like, oh, like a new MacBook, like a couple of thousand. I was like, that's nothing. I was like, yeah. Like 3 grand. I was like, yeah, 3 grand, whatever. I was like,
I know it does do that. It does do that to your business. But obviously, guys, be careful.
Even to the point where I'm like, it could be like a bit of like a random spend. Like I'll be in an Apple shop at some point in my life, you know, in my life. Whatever, I'll just buy one. Kind of like, but then I'll have two MacBook Pros. Just because I wanted a bigger screen, and then I thought, well, one could be personal, one could be business. So I'm like, Luke, do you really need that?
You're starting to sound like Matt Webley, Luke. Him and all his million MacBooks that he's got. He's always buying new MacBooks. But actually, I think that's because he drops them mainly. Or he ends up doing it. He's cursed when it comes to Apple products and dropping stuff and chucking it in the sea or whatever he does with it. I don't know. So just a few more people have joined on, and then we shall move on and talk about something else. So Sean says he's thinking about a third VA. Absolutely. So all part of growing and outsourcing. So Mickey says, Jambo, everyone. Hello, back to you, Mickey. Mickey or Mikey? I think it's Mickey. Hayden says that's mental. Jed says spot on that. I spend most of my day working with my sourcing VAs, reviewing their deals, giving one-to-one training. It's not as hands-off as people think, at least not in the early stages. So yeah, absolutely. You know, that's what I wanted to kind of express to everyone, that all these things that you think, yeah, okay, I'm going to outsource that business, I'm going to save myself time, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It's very rare, apart from the prep side of it, that you will see immediate impact into your business and your time saving. So, you know, just think about these type of things before you jump in and do them. So Fahana says she's hired her first VA. Good luck. Keep us updated. Fingers crossed she's made a good decision. I hope you have. I mean, just listen to what Luke said, what we've said, what Jed said. You have to spend time with them, and you have to really kind of, you know, put that effort in, you know, whatever you get in, whatever you put in, that's what you're going to get back. Sean says, if you look at the huge sellers with 10,000 plus feedback, most of them do merchant. And yeah, I completely agree with you, Sean. Some of them I noticed don't do prime at all. And these are the big sellers. Yeah, absolutely. I can see why this is happening. And we're going to start to cover this type of thing more and more in Never Mind the Buy Box, and some of the sellers that I have persuaded to come on and guest over Q4. We're going to talk a lot about that area and why they've made the sort of decisions to be able to do that, but more about that a little bit later anyway. So Paul says, I find sourcing a nice release from my day job. Will consider a prep center in the future. I actually agree. I've always really enjoyed sourcing. You know, when it comes to sourcing, my 2 hours a day before the kids get up, that's generally when I adopt my time to the sourcing that I want to do. I haven't been doing too much of it lately. I'm being open and honest here because obviously we've been setting up the Elite Sellers Academy, but back from next week we are full force again. And actually, interestingly, this might be interesting for Sean. I've mentioned this a couple of times before anyway. We have hired someone specifically to do merchant fulfilled for us. So I'm going to let you guys know how that goes through Q4. So we have got a specific person that we've taken on from the 1st of October just to merchant fulfill for us. So I don't know how many products that we're going to be able to sell a day. I don't know how many what output that person has, but I'm probably thinking somewhere in the region of, I don't know, 50 to 100 a day, maybe a bit more. I'm not sure of what person is able to send out because I've never personally done merchant fulfilled. So I don't think you've ever done it, have you, Luke?
I've sold 5 hairsprays or something.
I've done the odd thing. We've done the odd, you know, kind of hazmat thing, of course, but never really done the full kind of dedicated person, because I think what happens is when people decide to do MF, they just decide to do it as part of their, you know, whatever they're doing. And so they just think, oh, I know I can do MF and it's fine. And then what can really happen is those orders can snowball really, really quickly. If you don't keep on top of them, if you don't have a good process in place, you can get in trouble. So what Matt has spent the time doing over the last week or so is we've hired a specific person to stay with us during Q4 and hopefully and beyond as well. And maybe that team will end up growing as well. Hopefully it will. And that person is specifically just going to merchant fulfill for us. So they're not even going to do anything in the prep center. They're not doing any type of other prep. They're not helping with sending FBA shipments in. Their job purely is to just merchant fulfill and pack the goods that we've got to send all day long. So I'll keep you guys updated on that.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, I think it would be an interesting exercise because I think that especially this Q4, I haven't specifically done it because of the kind of essentials things, because I don't know, I keep flip-flopping on that. I keep thinking, okay, one time I think, okay, they're going to restrict it again with lockdown and there's going to be another lockdown. They're going to do this and do that. But then I also think, I don't think they'll be in that position again because I think they'll be more prepared. But what I do think, and we've had this discussion anyway as well, Luke, is you're experiencing quite a few delays sending FBA shipments in at the moment, aren't you?
Annoying, actually.
Pardon?
Starting to annoy me a bit because in my head I'm like, if this can, you know, I know it's going to continue. It probably won't, but it's like, you know, I'm like, there's the one thing that I shipped on the 9th and it's just checked in, but it's not even booking in. It's just checked in now. So basically it's like 3 weeks and I'm like, great. So I have to now prepare for 3 weeks in advance for everything. So whatever I think is going to send in 3 weeks, is that how I'm now thinking? Not like next week. So I'm having to like, it's almost like purchase stuff that I will need to be buying to sell in 3 weeks, which is obviously, you know, kind of like literally just copying and pasting what you did last week, this week, and to keep doing that. It's a lot easier than doing 3 weeks in advance and keep doing it like that, because obviously then you start getting a little bit more like picky and faffy with things. And I'm trying to think of like, you know, do I just carry on as it is? And obviously Amazon know that demand at Christmas goes up. They normally hire more staff and all that kind of thing. It happens. You normally get something happen like that anyway, around some sort of now. Maybe not as early as now, but it normally happens at some point. I'm not sure if I should just ride it out or what, but yeah, it's starting to a little bit on that side.
This is going to be the busiest period of time between now. Probably in reality, it's the end of August. Because don't forget, obviously now, this is when all the private labelers are sending all their goods in. So all the shipments coming over from China come over via containers, and all those goods will be going into Amazon. Now, obviously, on the flip side of it is we are seeing more stock being limited that goes in with the new 200 unit limit. But there is going to be a mountain of stock going into Amazon at the moment. So my logic around it was that just to have the option of someone there that we list everything merchant fulfilled. So we just lift it merchant fulfilled. If it sells, we send it. Okay. By the time it comes around to, if we look at the product and we can see the price starting to tank, then what we can do is we can make a decision to take it off merchant fulfilled and then send it into FBA. So by the time it goes in, by the time, the price tankers have got off it and hopefully sold out and everything like that, then it will be in an FBA position. Because the idea obviously is, if the profit's going to be slightly higher to merchant fulfill it, then that will even out the fact that it's probably going to cost me more to merchant fulfill it than it would to send it FBA via Amazon. So it might be a little bit of a difference, but obviously if we're going to be getting a slightly higher margin, because prices might not be as affected, because you will be essentially selling it straight away before it's had an opportunity, to price tank, then obviously that will make up the difference between the two. And logic suggests to me we should be no worse off, but it's going to be a bit of an experiment, so we will see.
Yeah, be interesting just to see, that's the cool thing about like Amazon as well and stuff. It's like a lot of people just think it's kind of like one dimensional, but there's so many things that you can do. Like even so many things that I don't do, and I think I do more than others. But like, there's just lots of you can play around so much with it, and it's more about just giving things a go, actually, more than anything, and not just sticking to what I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought, well, what a better time to do it than test it during Q4, during what is probably going to be the biggest online sales period in history. I thought, yeah, why not? Let's try it now. I'm a little bit safe sometimes, so I thought, okay, let's do it. But I think what put us off actually originally going down the merchant fulfilled route, because we've always done a level of merchant fulfilled even before we sold on Amazon. We always did I call it merchant fulfilled. We always dispatched our own goods. I had a distribution company. So we had staff that would come for us and we were sending out hundreds of packages a day. But they were very small, easy to pack, easy to do, not really an issue. Didn't require much extra prep or anything like that. So again, we are almost going a little bit full circle, doing a bit of a 180 and going back and trying new things. And that's been the whole theme of tonight, really, is to try new things and to see what works for you. Just because you took a course that says FBA is the right way, it doesn't mean that it is the right way, or it might not be the right way for your business. Don't be scared to try new things. But obviously when it comes to Amazon, always make sure you follow the rules. So Sue says, what a job, full-time MF. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be doing it, but the only reason, this is someone that we used to hire during our distribution company, so we know that they're happy doing it. So that's the other thing as well. The few I had to do did my head in, as Nat says, you can get into a bit of a trouble when orders build up. So yeah, we've got all the processes in place, or at least we think we have anyway. So Sue says Amanda Hill can do about 300 orders a day, I believe. So there we go. That's the benchmark. I'll be honest, I don't know if we can do 300 orders a day. This person will be able to do 300 orders a day. I know the products she sells, I think, are quite small, and but we'll wait and see. We're gonna test the process and see what happens. So Sean says Q4 is going to be amazing. Yes, it is. Last year around this time, Amazon did the SFP deal, so seller fulfilled prime, 500 units cheaper or something. Hopefully it'll come again this year. He'll apply. Yeah, it may well be. They may well be. If they get into trouble over lockdown, they will do their best to be able to really start to incentivize people not to send the goods in. So let's just go back, because I think I missed what Hassan said about good profit margins. I think I've missed the question somewhere. What sort of profit margins do you look for? What sort of profit margins are good to go for? Well, Probably get loads of different asanas on that, Hassan. So it probably range anywhere from a minimum of like a 30% ROI, but that's that's not a net profit. That's going to be gross ROI. So most people look as a minimum of between 30 and 50%, or a monetary value, or anywhere between £3 and £5 as a minimum. But it really does depend on how fast the product. Luke, for instance, will take a lower. So I'm speaking on your behalf, Luke, but Luke will take a lower profit monetary amount because it's a very fast seller. So you've just got to try and experiment and see what works for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't really like ask anyone and take like, I wouldn't go, oh, that person said that, I'll look for that. Just find whatever works for you. Because every seller will be different. So it's like, you can get a consensus of like what everyone does, but then sometimes I think, well, if there's too many people doing that, I won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, I wouldn't. It's kind of like a question that I feel like you can't really ask, because no matter where you whatever decision you do, it's probably not going to be exactly right for you anyway. It's more about actually figuring it out for yourself, what works for you.
Absolutely. Janet says, can't say my words. Sales are starting to creep up. I'm already finding exciting times ahead. Absolutely. So I completely agree. A lot of my unique stuff is really starting to kind of take off now. It's quite seasonal stuff that I've launched over the last month or so. So we're just seeing a little bit of momentum kind of building. And I think Q4 is definitely going to start early. But I've meant to say at the start of the episode, actually, I meant to say, how could I forget? It's like nearly Q4 Eve. So we've got 2 days until the start of Q4. One day. So we got tomorrow until the start of Q4, which is absolutely crazy. And I think we're definitely going to start to see it coming a little bit earlier this year.
I'm already, I was thinking this. I was like, this is something I can't remember the exact numbers, but like in my last Q4, my December was 86K. Now I'm looking at that number like it's not even that big now. That's how I see it. I don't see it as that. I mean, it's big enough, but it's not anything crazy. And I think in like October, which we haven't even had yet, I did like 20 something. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking I'm doing 60 something like now. So I'm like, I did 250,000 in December. Like, even though my goal was 100,000 at least from last year, I'm like, hang on, am I drastically underestimating the potential here? I am.
I think it's going to be a slightly difficult one to estimate because nobody knows what's going to happen. Obviously, if the whole country gets locked down, then that's a game changer anyway. So that's going to be a game changer. But it could be a game changer good, or it could be a game changer bad, because obviously what happened before, a lot of sellers couldn't sell during lockdown for various reasons. They couldn't get the stock, or Amazon restricted the amount of goods that got sent in. So it's very, very difficult to sort of put figures on things and expectations. I know the expectations that I'm looking at for my own sales, and I think one area with my unique stuff, I think I'm possibly being very, very optimistic, but I think with the OA stuff, I'm probably giving it lower targets than I think it could achieve, only purely because I just don't know what's going to happen. We just don't know what's going to happen with everything and lockdown and COVID. And like Sean says, more towns are going into lockdown. Just before I came live, I saw that North Wales has been given more restrictions and things like that. So who knows what's going to happen, but just keep feeding the beast and do whatever you can and take advantage. And I saw someone earlier on in Secret Wealth Project said, is this the right time? Is this the right time to be selling on Amazon, or should I wait until January? I was like, oh my God, no, do it now. There's no better time to be able to, test this market.
I mean, people were saying that 4 years ago when I started. They were like, oh, the market, is it not quite the same situation. Is it too late to start? Asking what was like, and I was like, I don't really care what these people are saying. I'm just going to do it. And now we're here. It's kind of like, well, we can, but then if you're never going to find the right time anyway. So it's like you either do it or you don't do it. It's more about actually sort of doing the action than it is the thought of the action, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So a few people have said that, you know, they did the kind of MF thing during lockdown. Boris is apparently going to do a little bit of a speech tomorrow. Martin says, I'm guessing that we'll get an earlier spike this year. General advice to the public is to plan ahead and buy early to make sure that they can get deliveries on time. That will probably lead to less people leaving it last minute, but you know, who knows? And I agree. I think that there are going to be shortages this year for certain things. And I'm quite organized when it comes to Christmas, but there are a few things that I'll probably leave that I would normally leave until last minute. But I'm hoping to pretty much have all of my Christmas shopping tied up by the end of October, you know, done and dusted. Yes, I know I'm potentially missing out on Black Friday sales and things like that, but to be perfectly honest, the stuff that I'm going to be buying is not really going to be impacted by that anyway. So even me as an Amazon seller, you know, looking around at all the different things that I want to buy and what I don't want to buy, normally I'd be like, no, I'm waiting for that Disney 3 for 2 that comes on the 23rd of November, just before Black Friday, or I'm waiting for this, or I'm waiting for that. I think overall this year, I think if you want it, I think people are probably going to have to buy it.
That's an interesting thing. I don't really think too much about that. Because obviously there were holdups with like Amazon deliveries and stuff, weren't there? Back where, you know, there was just backlogs of parcels. I don't know. It's kind of one of those things. It's like I wouldn't prepare for it until it's almost either happening or happens already. You know, you can sometimes you can predict the future almost. You can go over the top. I say, you know, just sort of be aware of what's going on, but just carry on as business as usual.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually making it worse.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think there's no rules this year. Essentially, it's going to be whatever people feel comfortable with. Personally, for me, I think I just want to be relaxed and ready to enjoy Christmas, you know, because it is probably going to be a scaled down Christmas this year with friends. Not going to be going out for the Christmas parties, not going to be, you know, spending as much time with big family gatherings as we would. I mean, who knows? It's still 3 months away, but we've got plenty of selling to do in Q4.
I said I could be having a party for one in Lithuania.
Oh no, don't say that. You'll be able to get back. You'll be able to get back. Don't worry.
In my Santa stuff or whatever I've got, and then I can go live on the Facebook group and basically just have like a Christmas dinner by myself with anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. You are more than welcome to join the join the Chromie family if you need to via Zoom on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
There we go. Right. Okay. Just a few other kind of notices then, just to let people know about. Yeah, Amazon have been a bit pesky this week. I don't know if you've seen it, Luke, with the whole kind of product safety notices that they have been sending out to people. It's mainly affecting toys. I didn't have any. I didn't think I had any, and then I actually found that I did. So what Amazon are asking for, and this is why my post in Secret Wealth was a bit weird today, because I literally woke up in the middle of the night after seeing these emails and thinking, do you know what? I've seen this before. I actually woke up in the middle of the night and I'm like, I'm sure Amazon did this last year, and I couldn't get back to sleep. So I had to go downstairs in the computer and kind of look through all my previous notes and look through all of my details and everything like that. And what Amazon did before about this time last year was a little bit earlier. I think they did it around end of September. I think they did it like a week or two earlier last year. Basically, they just send out this notification and it's random SKUs. It generally affects most toys, which I know probably wouldn't affect you anyway, or it doesn't affect most toys. It's affecting mostly toys, if that makes sense. That what they're basically asking for is a recheck on the product safety information. Now, Karen and I talked about this in length last year, and that's why I posted an old kind of Never Mind the Buy box from last year where we talked about it. It's the same sort of thing. So in some cases, they're just asking for a declaration of conformity. In some cases, they're asking for a declaration of conformity and photographs of the product. And in some cases, they're asking for like authorization from the manufacturer. Now, first of all, I just wanted to say, as I said in the post today, that none of this is going to impact on your account health. So if you choose not to do anything about it, then you're not going to get suspended or anything like that, as far as we're aware. Obviously, I will, you know, when it comes to Amazon, who knows? But it's a choice to be able to appeal this. So you don't have to appeal it. You don't have to provide that information. It's not like an inauthentic claim where they say that you have to provide that information. In this case, you don't have to. So don't panic about it. I would say, in all honesty, if you've just got a couple of SKUs that have been affected, don't stress yourself out trying to find all the information, trying to get declarations of conformities from, I don't know, Smith's Toy Superstore or something like that. Unfortunately, if you've purchased it from a retailer, the chance of getting a declaration of a conformity, unless you find it via Google online, is highly unlikely. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, and I hate to sound like I'm being really negative, as in I'm always like, yeah, whatever you put your mind to, you can achieve, no problem. But you have to be realistic. And so if you've got like 1 or 2 or possibly even up to like 10 SKUs that this is going to affect, kind of, it sounds mean, but suck it up. And, you know, personally, I wouldn't even bother appealing them unless you can get your hands on that information really easily. It's just going to stress you out otherwise. Now, if you are one of these people that is affected by like 700 SKUs, which I was reading today and Colin in the group mentioned as well, then you're going to have to do something about it. It's a lot of SKUs. But I suspect these type of people that are affected are more probably down the drop shipping route, as opposed to maybe having those goods sat in FBA warehouses. But I could be wrong. But obviously, if you want to do it, there's no way around it. Because I know a few people have said, oh, okay, well, I'm going to wait and see if someone else uploads it. And you can do that. Absolutely. You can wait for them to do it, but you're just going to have to put it on the back burner, whether or not you can sell that particular product. Because what will technically happen is if you don't remove the goods, it will stay in your stranded inventory. And if it stays in your stranded inventory, then it's going to have an impact on your inventory performance indicator score. Not indicator, I don't know where that came from, index score. So you're in a little bit of a catch-22. Now, if you've got quite a lot of SKUs that this is affecting, then, as I said, you're probably going to have to do a little something about it. Jed said, is it possible that another seller on the same listing may provide the necessary documentation, which in case we can sit on our hands and wait? Does the message not go out to all sellers? It would go out to all sellers on that particular SKU, Jed, but depending on what they're asking for, if it's a declaration of conformity, then no. If it's an SDS safety sheet, then yes, if that makes sense. Because when someone does an SDS sheet, then that kind of fills it out on everybody's behalf. But if it's a declaration of conformity, they want it specifically for that from you as the seller. So therefore, you wouldn't be able to wait for other people to do it because Amazon's going to want that information from you. Now, I've never appealed one of these, so I don't 100% know because I've never thought it's worth it to be able to do. So it's possible. It is possible that it could trigger it with someone else, but the chances are if everybody's bought from the same place, the chance of anyone getting one is going to be quite slim. Sorry, I've spoken for ages there, Luke.
That's okay. I've got a bit of a cold going on.
You have. I can tell you're struggling a little bit anyway.
Kind of like letting you take control.
Yeah.
A little bit here and there. Yeah, no, I don't know what's going on with my nose. Maybe I am actually coming down with something. I normally think I'm like a hero, and I'm like, no, I'm fine. I never get ill. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe actually I am. But we'll see tomorrow, won't we?
I think I've literally sent you a virtual cold because obviously we've spent a bit of time together in the last week virtually, and I think I've just sent you my virtual germs down the internet cables.
I thought it could be like, you know, some sort of late hay fever in the season. Because it was nice, like, you know, like yesterday and today. But no, I don't know. We'll see. I was just trying to, like, you know, while you were in full flow, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know it hates it, and I hate being the bearer of bad news for people. I really, really do. But when it first came out, I was a bit like, and I even said to you, didn't I? I even said, okay, do we think that this is connected to the new food, the food product and safety indicator on the account health section? Then I realized, you know, once I looked into it a little bit more, no, that wasn't the case. Which is obviously, we'll probably have to talk about that another time, actually, the food product and safety, because there is a new area on account health, and we don't really, it's one of those things that Amazon, they put stuff out, everyone kind of panics, you know, like this new food safety and or product safety marker on account health, and then, but they don't tell anyone what it is. And about 3 months down the line, they'll say, oh, by the way, it's this. And, you know, before then, you don't even know what it is. I suspect it's to do with expiry dates, personally. I don't know if you've thought about any more of what it's to do with.
Yeah, I've an area that I'm starting to think about a bit more with virtual assistant, because like I think I must have had something in there that didn't go to expire or something, and someone bought it and it was like didn't have much expiry date on it or something. And Amazon actually proactively, like, instead of just putting it to expired, the batch of products, they actually like did an investigation on it and stuff. But I did think that it's basically like a gap, not a gap in the market. What's the word? Like, it's a flaw in the system.
Yeah.
Where they need, but I can't see how they're going to leave it, like, not where you're having to, I don't know, some sort of, you know, thing that's actually going to happen.
Yes, there's a loophole at the moment. It's a, you know, it's a loophole that Amazon let us get away with expiry dates. You know, most people don't, you know, it's like the whole meltables thing in summer. You know, most people kind of get away with it still, whereas in my opinion, on these type of things, they just seem to be tightening up all the time. And it may well be that if you start sending goods in that have short expiry dates, you're going to get, you know, you're going to get penalized for it. But it might be something along the lines of ingredients as well. So it might be any known banned ingredients, or it might be if things have got nuts in them, for, you know, allergens or something like that. Or it may well be, in order to worst case scenario, because we, you know, that's why we have these sort of chats, so we can talk about options, but hopefully not scaremonger people. Worst case scenario, that they want some sort of food and health certificate in order to, you know, sell the goods. Who knows? We don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, exactly. But it's whatever it is, the more that they put on, the better, almost, you know, like the more that I can visibly see and I can try to take action on, like, is to me, even if it's a bad thing, like I get a policy warning for it, because it, like, just like the suspected IP that never used to be there, obviously, but it's good to know that, it's good to see it than not see it, you know, and try to, because there's probably a lot of things that we don't see and that happens behind the scenes. I'd rather, like, you know, as scary as it could be, like, to wake up and have some new thing there, and maybe have a policy warning against it. At least you can actually see it, rather than being like oblivious to whatever's going on in the background.
Absolutely. And in my own personal experience, it's never as bad as we think it is. So, you know, there's never really been one decision that Amazon's made, as long as I've been an Amazon seller, that I've just thought, oh my God, that's going to ruin the business, or that's going to do this, or that's going to do that. You know, generally the decisions that Amazon do make it, that end up working out quite well, you know, for Amazon sellers. I'm not saying in all, you know, in all cases, but yeah, let's wait and see what happens. And obviously we'll keep you guys updated with all of the information that we find out about. But it's hit 8 o'clock. We've been talking for an hour already. I can't believe it. Luke's clearly like on the edge of. Do you know what? I think you've literally progressed the illness in like the hour. It like you started out fine, and then you've looked like gradually worse as we've gone through the hour.
I feel like I don't know. I just feel like I'm about like my body's at like a turning point or something, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think what we will do is we will call it an evening. You know, unless anyone's got any other questions that they want us to let us know. But next week, guys, I have a special guest coming on the show. I have drum roll, please. Subject to, you know, them turning up and everything going well, obviously, of course. We have a 7-figure Amazon seller is going to be joining me here on Nevermind the Buy Box next week, 7 o'clock, next Tuesday, and discussing their Amazon business and their kind of Amazon journey and how long they've been selling on Amazon. Real veteran of selling on Amazon, been doing it for, you know, 10 plus years. So, you know, when I had a conversation with this person, actually, they were talking about that they were actually selling on Amazon before FBA was introduced, and you know, had experience of it from that point of view, and so really looking forward to kind of dissecting and asking lots of questions about this particular person's Amazon business. But not only that, we've actually got a huge amount of guests that are going to be coming on over Q4, a variety of different types of sellers, very successful sellers. We're also going to be having Mark Hawley that's going to be coming on at some point to be able to ask all or answer all of your accountancy questions. And, you know, Matt's going to be popping in and saying hello, but there's going to be a wide variety of different guests over Q4 just to keep you guys with updating as much information as possible. So we're not actually going to see Luke again on Nevermind the Buy Box, you know, for a few weeks now, because we've got different, I don't know why I started waving at you as well. We've got different guests coming up over the following week. So, but you know where Luke is. You can always ask him any questions in his group, Mr. FBA, or you can ask him any questions in Secret Wealth Project, or of course the Elite Sellers Academy as well. So hopefully for all of you elite sellers out there, that we will see you at 7 o'clock on Thursday, and Luke will be feeling a lot better anyway as well. And yeah, have a great week, guys, and I will see you next week for, yeah, hopefully a very interesting episode of Nevermind the Buy Box. So take care, guys, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Ciao.